Good morning. Today's Bible reading comes from 1 Samuel 13 through 16. And we are reading the Message Bible. We are using the Seville reading plan for the year. And this is done in fairly chronological order, I would say. Although the Seville reading plan does go back from New Testament to Old Testament and back and forth instead of a just total chronological reading the Old Testament and then sorry, I have a cat that's weaving in through the camera. Then, then going into the New Testament only. All right. Let's get into it. Saul was a young man when he began as king. He was king over Israel for many years. Saul conscripted enough men for 3 companies of soldiers. He kept 2 companies under his command at Michmash and in the Bethel Hills. The other company was under Jonathan at Gibeah in Benjamin. He sent the rest of the men home. Jonathan attacked and killed the Philistine governor, stationed at Gibeah. When the Philistines heard the news, they raised the alarm. The Hebrews are in revolt. Saul ordered the reveille trumpets blown throughout the land. The word went out all over Israel. Saul has killed the Philistine governor, drawn first blood. The Philistines are stirred up and mad as hornets. Summoned, the army came to Saul at Gilgal. The Philistines rallied their forces to fight Israel. 3 companies of chariots, 6 companies of cavalry, and so many infantry they looked like sand on the seashore. They went up into the hills and set up camp at Michmash, east of Beth-aven. When the Israelites saw that they were way outnumbered and in deep trouble, they ran for cover, hiding in caves and pits, ravines and brambles and cisterns, wherever. They retreated across the Jordan River, refugees fleeing to the country of Gad and Gilead. But Saul held his ground at Gilgal, his soldiers still with him, but scared to death. He waited 7 days, the time set by Samuel. Samuel failed to show up at Gilgal, and the soldiers were slipping away left and right. So Saul took charge. Bring me the burnt offering and the peace offerings. He went ahead and sacrificed the burnt offering. No sooner had he done it than Samuel showed up. Saul greeted him. Samuel said, "What on earth are you doing?" Saul answered, "When I saw I was losing my army from under me, and that you hadn't come when you said you would, and that the Philistines were poised at Michmash, I said, the Philistines are about to come down on me in Gilgal, and I haven't yet come before God, asking for his help. So I took things into my own hands and sacrificed the burnt offering." "That was a fool thing to do," Samuel said to Saul. "If you had kept the appointment that your God commanded, by now God would have set a firm and lasting foundation under your kingly rule over Israel. As it is, your kingly rule is already falling to pieces. God is out looking for your replacement right now. This time, he'll do the choosing. When he finds him, he'll appoint him leader of his people. And all because you didn't keep your appointment with God." At that, Samuel got up and left Gilgal. What army was left followed Saul into battle. They went into the hills from Gilgal toward Gibeah in Benjamin. Saul looked over and assessed the soldiers still with him, a mere 600. Saul and his son Jonathan and the soldiers who remained made camp at Gibeah of Benjamin. The Philistines were camped at Michmash. 3 squads or raiding parties were regularly sent out from the Philistine camp. One squadron was assigned to the Ophrah road, going toward Shul country, and another was assigned to the Beth Horon road. The third took the border road that rimmed the valley of Hyenas. There wasn't a blacksmith to be found anywhere in Israel. The Philistines made sure of that, lest those Hebrews start making swords and spears. That meant the Israelites had to go down among the Philistines to keep their farm tools, plowshares and mattocks, axes and sickles, sharp and in good repair. They charged a silver coin for the plowshares and mattocks, and half that for the rest. So when the battle of Michmash was joined, there wasn't a sword or spear to be found anywhere in Israel, except for Saul and his son Jonathan. They were both well armed. A patrol of Philistines took up a position at Michmash Pass. Later that day, Jonathan, Saul's son, said to his armor-bearer, "Come on, let's go over to the Philistine garrison patrol on the other side of the pass." But he didn't tell his father. Meanwhile, Saul was taking it easy under the pomegranate tree at the threshing floor on the edge of town of Geba. There were about 600 men with him. Ahijah, wearing the priestly ephod, was also there. Ahijah was the son of Ahitub, brother of Ichabod, son of Phinehas, who was the son of Eli, the priest of God at Shiloh. No one there knew that Jonathan had gone off. The pass that Jonathan was planning to cross over to the Philistine garrison was flanked on either side by sharp rock outcroppings. Cliffs named Bozez and Senna. The cliff to the north faced Michmash. The cliff to the south faced Geba. Jonathan said to his armor-bearer, "Come on now, let's go across to these uncircumcised pagans. Maybe God will work for us. There's no rule that says God can only deliver by using a big army. No one can stop God from saving when he sets his mind to it." The armor-bearer said, "Go ahead, do what you think best. I'm with you all the way." Jonathan said, "Here's what we'll do. We'll cross over the path and let the men see we're there. If they say halt, don't move until we check you out, we'll stay put and not go up. But if they say, come on up, we'll go right up, and we'll know God has given them to us. That will be our sign." So they did it, the two of them. They stepped into the open where they could be seen by the Philistine garrison. The Philistines shouted out, "Look at that! The Hebrews are crawling out of their holes." Then they yelled down to Jonathan and his armor-bearer, "Come on up here. We've got a thing or two to show you." Jonathan shouted to his armor-bearer, "Up, follow me. God has turned them over to Israel." Jonathan scrambled up on all fours, his armor-bearer right on his heels. When the Philistines came running up to them, he knocked them flat, his armor-bearer right behind, finishing them off, bashing their heads in with stones. In this first bloody encounter, Jonathan and his armor-bearer killed about 20 men, then set off a terrific upheaval in the camp and field. The soldiers in the garrison and the raiding squad badly shaken up, the ground itself shuddering, panic like you've never seen before. Saul's sentries posted back at Geba, and Benjamin saw the confusion and turmoil raging in the camp. Saul commanded, "Line up and take the roll. See who's here and who's missing." When they called the roll, Jonathan and his armor-bearer turned up missing. Saul ordered Ahijah, Bring the priestly ephod. Let's see what God has to say here. Ahiad was responsible for the ephod in those days. While Saul was in conversation with the priest, the upheaval in the Philistine camp became greater and louder. Then Saul interrupted Ahiah, put the ephod away. Saul immediately called his army together and they went straight to battle. When they got there, they found total confusion. Philistines swinging their swords wildly, killing each other. Hebrews who had early defected to the Philistine camp came back. They now wanted to be with Israel under Saul and Jonathan. Not only that, but when all the Israelites who had been hiding out in the backwoods of Ephraim heard that the Philistines were running for their lives, they came out and joined the chase. God saved Israel. What a day. The fighting moved on to Beth-aven. The whole army was behind Saul now, 10,000 strong, with the fighting scattering all over the towns throughout the hills of Ephraim. Saul did something really foolish that day. He addressed the army. A curse on the man who eats anything before evening, before I've wreaked vengeance on my enemies. None of them ate a thing all day. There were honeycombs here and there in the fields, but no one so much as put his finger in the honey to taste it. For the soldiers, to a man, feared the curse. But Jonathan hadn't heard his father put the army under oath. He stuck the tip of his staff into some honey and ate it. Refreshed, his eyes lit up with renewed vigor. Soldiers spoke up. Your father has put the army. Solemn oath, saying, a curse on the man who eats anything before evening. No wonder the soldiers are trooping. Jonathan said, my father has imperiled the country. Just look how quickly my energy has returned since I ate a little bit of this honey. It would have been a lot better, believe me. The soldiers had eaten their fill of whatever they took from the enemy. Who knows how much worse we could have whipped them. They killed Philistines that day, all the way from Michmash to Ajalon. But the soldiers ended up totally exhausted. Then they started plundering. They grabbed anything in sight, sheep, cattle, calves, and butchered it where they found it. Then they glutted themselves, meat, blood, and the works. Saul was told, do something. The soldiers are sinning against God. They're eating meat with the blood still in it. Saul said, you're biting the hand that feeds you. Roll a big rock over here, now. He continued, disperse among the troops and tell them, bring your oxen and sheep to me and butcher them properly here. Then you can feast to your heart's content. Please don't sin against God by eating meat with the blood still in it. And so they did. That night each soldier, one after another, led his animal there to be butchered. That's the story behind Saul's building an altar to God. It's the first altar to God that he built. Saul said, let's go after the Philistines tonight. We can spend the night looting and plundering. We won't leave a single live Philistine. Sounds good to us, said the troops. Let's do it. And the priests slowed them down. Let's find out what God thinks about it. So Saul prayed to God, shall I go after the Philistines? Will you put them in Israel's hand? God didn't answer him on that occasion. Saul then said, all army officers, step forward. Some sin has been committed this day. We're going to find out what it is and who did it. As God lives, Israel's Savior. God, whoever sinned will die, even if it should turn out to be Jonathan, my son. Nobody said a word. Saul said to the Israelites, you line up over on that side, and I and Jonathan, my son, will stand on this side. The army agreed, fine. whatever you say." Then Saul prayed to God, "O God of Israel, why haven't you answered me today? Show me the truth. If the sin is in me or Jonathan, then, O God, give the sign Urim. But if the sin is in the army of Israel, give the sign Thummim." The Urim sign turned up and pointed to Saul and Jonathan. That cleared the army. Next Saul said, "Cast the lots between me and Jonathan, and death to the one God points to." The soldiers protested, "No, this is not right. Stop this." But Saul pushed on anyway. They cast the lots, Urim and Thummim, and the lot fell to Jonathan. Saul confronted Jonathan. "What did you do? Tell me." Jonathan said, "I licked a bit of honey off the tip of the staff I was carrying. That's it. And for that, I'm to die?" Saul said, "Yes, Jonathan, most certainly will die. It's out of my hands. I can't go against God, can I?" The soldiers rose up. "Jonathan die? Never. He's just carried out this stunning salvation victory for Israel. As surely as God lives, not a hair on his head is going to be harmed. Why, he's been working hand in hand with God all day." The soldiers rescued Jonathan, and he didn't die. Saul pulled back from chasing the Philistines, and the Philistines went home. Saul extended his rule, capturing neighboring kingdoms. He fought enemies on every front: Moab, Ammon, Edom, the king of Zobah, and the Philistines. Wherever he turned, he came up with a victory. He became invincible. He smashed Amalek, freeing Israel from the savagery and looting. Saul's sons were Jonathan, Ishvi, and Malchi-Shua. His daughters were Merab, the firstborn, and Michal, the younger. Saul's wife was Ahinoam, daughter of Ahimaaz. Abner, son of Ner, was commander of Saul's army. Ner was Saul's uncle. Kish, Saul's father, and Ner, Abner's father, were the sons of Abiel. All through Saul's life there was war, bitter and relentless, with the Philistines. Saul conscripted every strong and brave man he laid eyes on. Samuel said to Saul, "God sent me to anoint you king over his people Israel. Now listen again to what God says. This is the God of the angel armies speaking. I'm about to get even with Amalek for ambushing Israel. When Israel came up out of Egypt, here's what you are to do. Go to war against Amalek. Put everything connected with Amalek under a holy ban, and no exceptions. This is to be total destruction. Men and women, children and infants, cattle and sheep, camels and donkeys, the works." Saul called the army together at Telaim and prepared them to go to war. The 200 companies of infantry from Israel and another 10 companies from Judah. Saul marched to the Amalek city and hid in the canyon. Then Saul got word to the Kenites, "Get out of here while you can. Evacuate the city right now, or you'll get lumped in with the Amalekites. I'm warning you because you showed real kindness to the Israelites when they came up out of Egypt." And they did. The Kenites evacuated the place. Then Saul went up after Amalek from the canyon all the way to Shur near the Egyptian border. He captured Agag, king of Amalek, alive. Everyone else was killed under the terms of the holy ban. Saul and the army made an exception for Agag and for the choice sheep and cattle. They didn't include them under the terms of the holy ban, but all the rest, which nobody wanted anyway, they destroyed as decreed by the holy ban. Then God spoke to Samuel. I'm sorry I ever made Saul king. He's turned his back on me. He refuses to do what I tell him. Samuel was angry when he heard this. He prayed his anger and disappointment all through the night. He got up early in the morning to confront Saul, but was told, Saul's gone. He went to Carmel to set up a victory monument in his own honor and then headed for Gilgal. By the time Samuel caught up with him, Saul had just finished an act of worship, having used Amalekite plunder for the burnt offerings sacrificed to God. As Samuel came close, Saul called out, God's blessings on you. I accomplished God's plan to the letter. Samuel said, So what's this I'm hearing? This bleating of sheep, this mooing of cattle. Only some Amalekite loot, said Saul. Soldiers saved back a few of the choice cattle and sheep to offer up in sacrifice to God, but everything else was destroyed under the holy ban. Enough, interrupted Samuel. Let me tell you what God told me last night. Saul said, Go ahead, tell me. And Samuel told him, When you started out in this, you were nothing, and you knew it. Then God put you at the head of Israel, made you king over Israel. Then God sent you off to do a job for him, ordering you, Go and put these sinners, the Amalekites, under a holy ban. Go to war against them until you have totally wiped them out. So why did you not obey God? Why did you grab all this loot? Why, with God's eyes on you all the time, did you brazenly carry out this evil? Saul defended himself. What are you talking about? I did obey God. I did the job God set for me. I brought in King Agag and destroyed the Amalekites under the terms of the holy ban. So the soldiers saved back a few choice sheep and cattle from the holy ban for sacrifice to God at Gilgal. What's wrong with that? Then Samuel said, Do you think all God wants are sacrifices? Empty rituals just for show? He wants you to listen to him. Plain listening is the thing, not staging a lavish religious production. Not doing what God tells you is far worse than fooling around in the occult. Getting self-important around God is far worse than making deals with your dead ancestors. Because you said no to God's command, he says no to your kingship. Saul gave in and confessed, I've sinned. I've trampled roughshod over God's word and your instructions. I cared more about pleasing the people. I let them tell me what to do. Oh, absolve me of my sin. Take my hand and lead me to the altar so I can worship God. But Samuel refused. No, I can't come alongside you in this. You rejected God's command. Now God has rejected you as king over Israel. As Samuel turned to leave, Saul grabbed at his priestly robe, and a piece tore off. Samuel said, God has just now torn the kingdom from you and handed it over to your neighbor, a better man than you are. Israel's God of glory doesn't deceive, and he doesn't dither. He says what he means and means what he says. Saul tried again. I have sinned, but don't abandon me. Support me with your presence before the leaders and the people. Come alongside me as I go back to worship God. Samuel did. He went back with him, and Saul went to his knees before God and worshipped. Then Samuel said, Present King Agag of Amalek to me. Agag came, dragging his feet, muttering that he'd be better off dead. Samuel said, Just as your sword made many a woman childless, so your mother will be childless among those women. And Samuel cut Agag down in the presence of God, right there in Gilgal. Samuel then left immediately for Ramah, and Saul went home to Gibeah. Samuel had nothing to do with Saul from then on, though he grieved long and deeply over him. But God was sorry he had ever made Saul king in the first place. God addressed Samuel. So how long are you going to mope over Saul? You know I've rejected him as king over Israel. Fill your flask with anointing oil and get going. I'm sending you to Jesse of Bethlehem. I've spotted the very king I want among his sons. I can't do that, said Samuel. Saul will hear about it and kill me. God said, take a heifer with you and announce, I've come to lead you in worship of God, with this heifer as a sacrifice. Make sure Jesse gets invited. I'll let you know what to do next. I'll point out the one you are to anoint. Samuel did what God told him. When he arrived at Bethlehem, the town fathers greeted him, but apprehensively. Is there something wrong? Nothing's wrong. I've come to sacrifice this heifer and lead you in the worship of God. Prepare yourselves, be consecrated, and join me in worship. He made sure Jesse and his sons were also consecrated and called to worship. When they arrived, Samuel took one look at Eliab and thought, here he is, God's anointed. But God told Samuel, looks aren't everything. Don't be impressed with his looks and stature. I've already eliminated him. God judges persons differently than humans do. Men and women look at the face. God looks into the heart. Jesse then called up Abinadab and presented him to Samuel. Samuel said, this man isn't God's choice either. Next, Jesse presented Shammah. Samuel said, no, this man isn't either. Jesse presented his 7 sons to Samuel. Samuel was blunt with Jesse. God hasn't chosen any of these. Then he asked Jesse, is this it? Are there no more sons? Well, yes, there's the runt, but he's out tending the sheep. Samuel ordered Jesse, go get him. We're not moving from this spot until he's here. Jesse sent for him, and he was brought in. The very picture of health, bright-eyed and good-looking. God said, up on your feet, anoint him. This is the one. Samuel took his flask of oil and anointed him, with his brothers standing around watching. The Spirit of God entered David like a rush of wind, God vitally empowering him for the rest of his life. Samuel left and went home to Ramah. At that very moment, the Spirit of God left Saul, and in its place a black mood sent by God settled on him. He was terrified. Saul's advisor said, this awful, tormenting depression from God is making your life miserable. Oh, Master, let us help. Let us look for someone who can play the harp. When the black mood from God moves in, he'll play his music and you'll feel better. Saul told his servants, go ahead. Find me someone who can play well and bring him to me. One of the young men spoke up, I know someone. I've seen him myself, the son of Jesse of Bethlehem, an excellent musician. He's also courageous, of age, well-spoken, and good-looking. And God is with him. So Saul sent messengers to Jesse requesting, send your son David to me, the one who tends the sheep. Jesse took a donkey, loaded it with a couple of loaves of bread, a flask of wine, and a young goat, and sent his son David with it to Saul. David came to Saul and stood before him. Saul liked him immediately and made him his right-hand man. Saul sent word back to Jesse, "Thank you. David will stay here. He's just the one I'm looking for. I'm very impressed by him." After that, whenever the bad depression from God tormented Saul, David got out his harp and played. That would calm Saul down, and he would feel better as the moodiness lifted. And that is it for today's Bible reading. As always, get in touch with God today, and I will see you again tomorrow. Bye.